After your husband passed away, you became president and CEO of his companies.
I did. I became president of the Ironclad Manufacturing Companies. That was November 1899. I was determined to run a business and workplace that benefited employee welfare. I had done a report on the Pullman neighborhood in Chicago, so I knew exactly how I did not want things to run.
And you were quite involved with the process?
I was. I wanted to learn how to operate every machine, and I even designed a few. I took out 25 patents for my inventions. I was very hands-on. I even increased sales by over $1 million my first year.
So it was a booming business.
It was. And since the focus was on increasing the livelihood of my employees, I eliminated piecework and imposed a weekly salary. I improved office spaces, added a recreational center, company parties, you name it.
You were the only woman in the world managing industries at that time.
Of that magnitude.
You were on a steady growth increase, but the company fell into financial trouble.
I cannot blame myself enough for not learning banking methods or commercial accounting when going into the Ironclad. However, I had never taken an interest in money for itself, and financial details bored me. I entrusted those I worked with and was deceived. 2 cashiers forged checks for thousands in my name. Because of that, we grew so deep in debt, the creditors started to call and collect.
But you had a business partner, Mr. Siemens businessman, Mr. Gilman?
He was supposed to control the business side of things and I the operational. I don't think he was a direct member of the conspiracy to loot the Ironclad, but I think his dishonesty made that conspiracy possible. And he would have never acted that way if my late husband was alive.
And the fallout?
It was disgraceful. The big banks and creditors started to prosecute me. I fought back because how could they cash so many checks in my name without asking, raising a question, or demanding for substantial proof? On top of that, the banks paid for the lawyers of the criminals who stole from me.
Why did they do that?
It was in their best interest. If they were found guilty, I could not be blamed for my debt.
People have criticized your judgments during this time. Do you think of this time period as a success?
My success was proving that an American woman could do cold, hard business. I grew the plant I had and one more. I was going to see if an American woman could not lead the world. And did men help me? As wolves might help rabbits.
Do you think that's specific to your case?
Women are not treated according to the code that men deal with one another. Her finances are free pickings for every law firm and bank that could get its clutches on her. Over $2 million was stolen from my company.
Nellie Bly keeps going on about how we are so mean. Listen, there is no code for women in business because they don't belong there. Nellie Bly, if you can't handle the business world, stay in the kitchen.
After everything that happened with the Ironclad, I needed to work again. So I went back to where it all began, journalism. On August 1st, 1914, I left to Europe to cover stories abroad. What I did not account for was that World War I was about to begin.
When you arrived in Europe, did you know you'd be staying for 5 years?
I didn't, but we did get to report from the front lines, and I think it was important to cover the underlying issues. People, good, kind people, were in grave danger. Famine, illness, death, all were very common. That's why I wrote to the United States begging for relief funds and shipments of supplies. I saw the horrors of the war up front, and I wanted to help, especially the women and orphans.
And it seems that you proceeded in that humanitarian direction when you returned to the United States.
Absolutely. Some say it was a new direction. I'm uncertain if I'd call it that. I went back to writing, this time for the Journal, focusing on an advice column while overseeing issues pertaining to the underserved. I think those themes were always present in my work. I have never written a word that did not come from my heart. I never shall. And my heart was with the people.